As many of you know, I had a lot of problems with Happy Death Day, but this trailer comes along for Happy Death Day to You, which looks like it could be a lot more intense. They could ratchet up the horror a bit. So I was definitely on board. It's even well documented in previous Scream streams. So, did Happy Death Day to You live up to the hype? For me, anyway. Here we go. Happy Death Day to You stars Jessica Rothe, Israel Brossard, and is directed by Christopher Landon. What's up, guys? It's been 2 years since the original Happy Death Day came out. It was a pretty big hit. And so naturally, Blumhouse is gonna, they're gonna cash in. And so they come up with this new movie, Happy Death Day to You. And I literally just posted on Twitter, should I do a spoiler or a non-spoiler review? So let's see what the answer says. So looking at my computer right now, it's right down the middle. So it looks like we're gonna do 33 votes. I got 58% spoiler, 42% non-spoilers. So we'll do non-spoilers and then we'll do spoilers after the rating. And also, this will be dedicated to one of my newest patrons, Ethan Davidson. If you contribute a certain tier, then you can get a review dedicated in your honor. So this one's for you, Ethan. So anyway, quick plot synopsis for Happy Death Day to You. I mean, it is a loop movie. It's a Groundhog Day type of movie. So I think this is the first time we've had a sequel in a Groundhog Day plot. And so in this one, we all remember Jessica Rothe, who plays Tree, our main character. She beat the loop in the first movie. So the beginning of the movie, this character Ryan, he enters the loop pretty much. We see like 2 scenes of Ryan, and in both those scenes he goes into his roommate Carter's dorm room and he sees Carter and Tree, and then he tells Tree something's off. I feel like, deja vu, this happened before. And so Tree eventually picks up that, oh my God, you're in the loop. She went through this 11 times. And how does she get out of it? So anyway, we find out why the loop was created in the first place. But that sends Tree over the edge. She loses her mind because, can you imagine? She went through this whole thing 11 times and now she's got to do it again. And just to jump into a scene that I did love is the scene where Tree walks out of the building and, she's been through this before. We all saw it in the first movie and she just completely goes apeshit. Loses her mind. One of my favorite scenes is when she walks up to the one guy and she just looks him in the face and she goes, "You're gay." And really that is my big pro for this movie, is Jessica Rothe, who plays Tree. Make no bones about it. She is phenomenal in both these movies. She is really what holds these movies up in my mind. She's so funny. She's so charismatic. She just has this way about her. She has that it factor. And I would love to see her in like a bona fide horror film, because these aren't really horror films. The first one is a slasher template. I will definitely give it that. It does have some horror vibes to it. My problem with the first movie was really just the payoff. There were cutaways every single time Tree was killed. I literally had to get up because Levi was growling and barking, and I think I got a little bit of his growl on audio here. Come on. But anyway, back to the plot. So, Tree spends the rest of this movie trying to get everyone else out of the loop. And she is the one that is constantly reliving the same day over and over again, much to my dismay, because I thought this involved other characters being in this situation and Tree having to save all these characters. That is a little bit of it, but not really. The trailer's very misleading. We're going to get into the trailer here in just a minute, because that is a part of the reason why I have major problems with this movie. But really, back to the plot, the middle portion of this movie, which makes up about an hour, is Tree and this group of young people, and they're trying to figure out, based on the whatever it is that caused this whole loop, which we will talk about in the spoiler section. Really, that's the entire middle of this movie. So the horror element, the slasher element of the movie, is barely just making up the bookends. That's it. So now, let's talk about, I guess, the trailer first. The trailer for this movie really got me pumped. I was super excited for this one. I remember the first time I saw the trailer in the theater, I was seeing something else. It might have been Halloween, but I was like, oh wow, so this is a unique plot twist here. It's not going to be just Tree dying in the movie. It's going to be multiple victims dying in this movie, and Tree has to figure out why this is happening. And if you look at the trailer, it's really horror based. Everything about this trailer looks like this could be a fun slasher movie. They even have that one scene where I think it was Morgan, she gets stabbed and we see blood coming out of her mouth, and that really got me excited. And you know, beat by beat, this trailer looks like a nice slasher movie. So I was excited, and much to my dismay, I ended up liking this movie even less than the first movie because I guess my expectations were played with. Really. I love comedies. I love good comedy movies. There are some fun comedy moments in this movie. But it's jarring when I am sitting in the theater and I'm waiting for a certain type of movie to unfold, and 95%, I shit you not, 95% of the movie is not horror-based at all. 100% comedy, and leans more on like sci-fi comedy. You know, they borrow a lot of elements from like Back to the Future Part 2. I don't really have a big problem with all the characters. I think they play well off of each other. And there is this side plot where Tree is in like a different version of her reality. I didn't really mention that, but yeah, there are like multiple versions of the reality because of the technology that was created that made the loop. And so Tree is faced with this decision. Do I kill my mother or do I kill my boyfriend? And at face value, that's a ludicrous decision. You know, everybody is going to pick their mother because you could bring the boyfriend around. You know, that's my argument to that whole thing. But I think it was handled pretty well to where you can kind of understand where Tree was coming from, because she did grieve. She did go through that whole process after her mother died. So to have her mother come back is kind of strange. And so I can see how she would like have to play with that in her mind. You know, she had already let her go. And also, before we jump into the spoilers, I will say the reveal in this movie, much like the reveal in the first movie, you know, who the killer is, I called it almost immediately. On my Letterboxd review, I said I called it in like 10 minutes. Yeah, the killer in this movie might not have shown up that early in the movie, might have, I don't know. But let's just say as soon as he or she was presented, I was like, that's the killer. Just because that didn't really have anything to do with the main plot that was going on. It was more of just a side plot. And so because of that, the reveal in the end was kind of stupid. And I'll explain more of that in the spoiler section. But overall, guys, I'm giving this movie a 2 hours lost. You know, ultimately, it was just unsatisfying. I know a lot of people like this movie. I know that there's a lot of people that like the first movie. I thought the first movie was okay, but still better than this one. You know, every now and then, there is a movie that comes along that most of the audience likes, and I tend to dislike. It happens. Most of the time, I kind of lean on the same side as everyone else. But this is one of those experiences where I just can't get into this series. It's an irresistible plot, and I think it needs to be in a really fun, bloody slasher type of movie. But because they want more butts in the seats, they're going to make it PG-13. And you know what? It's fine because you guys like it, and that's cool. You know, it's just not my cup of tea, and I'm not going to judge horror fans because horror fans do like comedies. I like comedies, but I don't like my horror comedies to be 95% comedy and 5% horror. I guess that's what I'm getting at. But to jump into spoilers, I guess one thing that I really want to talk about is the machine that was created, this experiment that Ryan created that was ultimately the reason for the first loop. They spend, you know, the majority of the plot, the story on this plot angle. And, you know, they spend a good freaking hour in the middle of the movie. You do have a fun little montage in there, just like in the first movie. But there's no horror to be found. You know, it's all comedy. It's all Tree going through these emotions, trying to figure out this thing. She's having to relive the same day over and over so she can collect all the data she can, you know, through quantum physics and chemistry and all this stuff to solve this whole thing. That's what most of this movie is. So the horror fan in me was sitting back just waiting for, you know, the slasher to come back in, you know, the killer. The babyface killer isn't even in this movie except for like maybe the beginning and the end. If he was in the middle, I don't remember him that much at all. But I was just getting pissed off. Yes, there were some fun moments in there in the middle. But it's just not the movie that I was there for. I wanted it to be this nice, fun slasher horror movie. I wasn't even asking for it to be that bloody because I didn't expect that because, like I said, this is a PG-13 movie. And I know I'm sounding like a baby here. It's my own personal reasoning. That doesn't mean that this is a bad movie at all. Like I said, a lot of you guys like this stuff. And that's fine. It's a fun series, it really is. I just wanted more from it in the horror department. And I expected even more of that in this movie based on the trailer. Also, the killer in this movie, like I said, I called him. It was the guy, you know, the scumbag that was cheating on his wife in the first movie, Greg. He turns out to be the killer in this movie, and I thought that was really stupid because Greg didn't really have much to do with any of the plot whatsoever. He was just the killer. And his reasoning for the killings, for me, was kind of stupid, really bland. And then his wife is like in on the gig. I mean, you got to give me something there, you know, some kind of motivation that would make someone go that far, because this guy didn't really have a history of being like, you know, a serial killer. And so ultimately it was just really unsatisfying. But anyway, guys, that is my review for Happy Death Day to you. Probably going to get some dislikes because I know a lot of you guys like this movie, but it just wasn't for me. And that's fine, right? You know, we all have opinions. I always say, if everybody had the same opinion about every movie, how boring would that be, right? So I like that a lot of you guys love this movie. Anyway, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day, and on Fridays, we do Free For All Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. If you like what I'm doing, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. I have to, like, overpronounce subscribe because I have such a tough time saying that word if I try to say it fast. Subscribe. Hey, I did it that time. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out. Did I just do that twice?